this was the moment where I started taking mental notes, because I thought I didn't recognize how attentive Peter Jackson was when he was choosing the shots and then the rhythm that's created between them, as far as jumping back and forth between what I would put into two buckets of abstract shots and then very literal shots. So an abstracted shot would be something that's like not really, it's not like they're focusing on a character, kind of like the way that we are now where it's a talking head and you can actually see there's not really anything going on that's of significance, but it's instead zooming in very close on things. Like the scene that I remember in particular is at Weathertop when the hobbits are being surrounded by the Ringwraiths, and it zooms in on the Ringwraith's armor and his gloves, his armored gloves, as he's clenching his sword like this, and it's just his hands, and you get this feeling of like, oh, he's a very bad person, and you don't even have to see his face. You can't see their face, but you don't even see the whole figure, and you understand that they're bad. But then it goes back and forth between looking at the hobbits where you could see all of them together, there's a full picture, versus something abstracted. And it repeatedly jumps between those kind of rhythmic shots. And this is something that we do all the time in design. It's like, this is why you vary your column amounts between sections so that you have visual interest. And I think it's a good reminder of vary up your, like, the whole canvas, focus on something really big and then a bunch of other things that are really, really small visually. This is why we tend to move between, like, we'll have 4 columns all with icons and text, then we'll have a big picture above it that helps describe what a product is, and creating that visual rhythm is done through a similar means of having stuff that's really narrow and in focus, and the things that are somewhat out of focus or a little bit bigger.
What was your next hit? I think the third one, the contrast without red.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've realized as we've been designing a lot of websites is we're big fans in that primer section of how your life sucks now and then how your life could be better. Or if you're doing something like a competitor comparison. And I think that the default that most founders will go to is just make that all red X's, just red X's all over the place, even though red is completely outside your color palette, and it's going to make that particular section of your site is going to look really ugly. And we had tried a bunch of different versions of this. I think that we started in the same camp of red being that color to show alarm and negativity, and then we moved to trying to use a brand color that was contrast to something like, with audience tap, I tried putting negative things in orange and then positive things in purple. But then that kind of created some problems because we were using a brand color of theirs to show negativity, which I didn't want to do. And then I came up with the better solution, which was, what if I just remove the color entirely from the bad version and have it be neutral? And I think that this is also emphasized in the Lord of the Rings, how you can show the enemy without having to be glaringly red. Instead, you could just make things void of color. And that creates the amount of contrast that you need between your brand colors and something else to convey the difference. And I noticed this same thing with the Hobbits. They get ambushed by the Ringwraiths. The Hobbits are all wearing very warmly earthy, folksy colors, and all the Ringwraiths are in black. So if you can just remove the color entirely, whether that's making it all white or gray or black, whatever kind of neutral is going to work with your brand colors, that's a better way to show negativity without being like, the kind of scam type website design, just red X's all over the place.
It's kind of a trope at this point, right?
Trope, yeah.
What's so crazy is it's like really full circle, because I'm just making this connection, but it feels so obvious to where, like, we've talked about how we've based some of our methodology and like our website formula and copywriting style on old 2000s infomercials, right? When that same kind of template and formula of all the different things in the sequence, especially. And it just clicked for me that a lot of times in those kinds of old infomercials, when they would show the old way of doing things, it would often go to black and white. And I was like, oh yeah, like I totally forgot about that.
Dude, you're right. Yeah. Because I remember that with, wasn't there a necklace one? And I remember that. I also remember the egg one too, where it's like, it's a black and white footage of someone just cracking an egg. No freaking way. That's so cool.
Yeah. It also has a kind of another meaning or another angle to it. Could be like black and white, especially with our generation, is associated with like old
Antiquity.
times, sort of the old way. Yeah, the old way of doing things, antiquity, lack of technology, especially, right? So I feel like that's another parallel or another way you could think about it.
I love that. I remember the nonstick pans one where you're like, oh, these just like things slide off, and then it shows someone like trying to clean their pan in the sink.
Yeah, with like
in black and
eggs
white.
all over the place. Yeah.
It's so good. I love that. Okay, let's talk about villains. The repeating villain theme. I am intrigued just by the title of this one, so I want to hear it.
I'm actually going to lump 4 and 5 together because they're both about villains. We're in the villain track right now. If we can, making them devoid of color. Points 4 and 5 are a repeating villain theme, and then introducing your villain early. So I'm going to start with introducing the villain early because I think that will tie into point 4 better. It's actually better to tell the story going to the end and then going back to the beginning to only stop people.
Okay.
So introducing the villain early. This is one of the things that we know is super important in all story. And it's also important in marketing. You have to give people a reason to want to make an action. And the only thing that causes that is pain. So pain is, it could be actually having a frustration, or it could be the presence of a ominous lurking danger. And Lord of the Rings does this really well by showing you, walking you through the entire story of Sauron and him, losing the battle, but then the ring still lives on and exists. So you know that there is this looming threat going on all over the place. They do a really good job there. They also do a really good job with Lurtz, who is the leader of the Uruk-hai, the big baddie. He's the only one they focus on. He says one word. No, more words. He's very very few.
A couple things. Yeah.
Yeah. He says Saruman, and then find the halflings. Yeah. Exactly. So you watch him literally get born, and as soon as he's born, he straight up kills somebody. Like he kills one of his
orc homies.
Yeah, his orc dummies. And so if he hadn't been introduced like that, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal for Aragorn to defeat him when they fight the final battle in Fellowship of the Ring, or for him to kill Boromir. So you have to introduce your villain early in order to give people a reason to be invested and want to see that villain vanquished, and then it's a greater satisfaction when they are. You can compare this with Rings of Power, because in Rings of Power there's this like one of the final battles where this giant orc comes. What's the black elf's name?
I don't know his name.
Adar?
No, that's like no. He's the bad guy. Adar's a bad guy.
Okay. Well, anyway, so black elf gets backs up into this big orc, and then the orc just throws him. And you're like, who cares? Because I don't know who that orc is. He's just some random orc on the battlefield, and he just should have snapped his neck from behind him. I have no investment in seeing this orc be defeated. But when you introduce them early, then it's way more satisfying when they are defeated. The other thing I would suggest on this is having some kind of grander theme that you could tie your villain into, which is what is repeated throughout this movie, is the battle between nature and industrialization. You see this with things like Arwen calling in the river to defeat the Ringwraiths. The Uruk-hai are bred unnaturally. Unlike everybody else, there's the Ents versus the machines. The eagle comes and rescues Gandalf from the Iron Tower in Isengard. Isengard deforests the entire, area around them. So there is a bigger battle that's going on that you don't even realize is being won in small fights all throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's so good. And the vision of hell in the future is when Sam sees that the Shire is just basically turned into this industrial.
It's Frodo who sees that, but yeah.
Or whatever, sorry. He sees Sam in the vision. Okay, I got mixed up.
Yes.
F you. I hate you. No. Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, Corey, you looked like you were waiting.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it reminds me too of oftentimes in storytelling there will be like an exterior villain enemy, like, you know, Darth Vader or Sauron or Saruman or the Ring,
Thanos. Yeah.
Thanos, right? But then you often also have an inner demon, an inner villain inside the protagonist that kind of mirrors, that kind of represents the outer villain, right? So like Harry Potter, he's
Has
the
part of
last
Voldemort.
Horcrux.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has part of Voldemort. Luke is afraid of becoming like his
Vader.
father.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot of, you know, even Frodo with the ring, right? He ends up kind of giving in to the temptation of the ring and wanting to indulge
power.
in it, right? So you have like the ring is this representation of power, and Saruman is, you know, the powerful force. In a very similar way, in a way that's much less cool in marketing. You know, you might have the exterior villain of a competitor or some force, some law, something that you kind of paint as the bad guy.
Mhm.
But then there's also like, hey, within your organization, you need to fight mediocrity. You need to fight email overload. You need to fight
Creative stagnation, you know, whatever it
right.
is, disorganization.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so there's kind of like two versions of that, two enemies. And when you bring up both of them and you can kind of tie those together, I think that's when it becomes a powerful story. It's not just like, we're not just helping you slay the dragon, we're helping you slay your own
Save the
inner
world.
demon too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it
That's
should
good.
be treated much less like a murder mystery, like who's really bad here. It's like, no, it's obvious from the start that this is the thing that we're all fighting against. Like there's, you know, plenty of movies where it's like we don't know who did it, and then at the end you kind of reveal that. That's not the vibe we're going for. Like you'll even see that kind of, I feel like, with a lot of the sites that we build and a lot of the marketing material that is created by us is like early on homepage. It's like problem solution type verbiage, before and after type verbiage. It's super good.